You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. This week we're going to continue with this theme about what are the differentiators between the great salespeople and the good salespeople. And some people are like, don't call us B players. It's like, well, it's just like school. There's nothing different here. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you want to be better, if you want to make money, that's what we're here to help you with, to show you the difference, to show you what to do. And we've got some great tips today. Also, I want to give you an update on Nudge. Excuse me, Nudge.ai. They've got a great new blog series about what the difference is between this hustle, work harder mentality and the work smarter, the connecting with people, doing what really works in the more complex sale instead of just running around in circles and digging ditches. That makes that activity mindset gets you distracted from what really does work today. So I'm working with Nudge on a bunch of different topics that are going to be coming out over the next couple of months, so stay tuned for that. Also, I'm going to call it #SalesClub. So that the name of my group on LinkedIn has changed from Maverick Selling Method to #SalesClub. So the idea is much like Fight Club. Remember Fight Club, where these people were just disgruntled about their lives and they wanted to just live a better life? That's what I want to do with Sales Club, is show you a smarter way of selling, a more effective way of selling, to get bigger deals faster so that you can make more money and really do what you love and take some of the rejection or most of the rejection and that crummy feeling that we get when we get turned down in sales and turn it into how do we connect? How do we engage people? How do we make their lives better? Enough about that. Let's get into this interview. Got some great tips. This is real world stuff, people, practitioners who are just crushing it out there. Here we go.
Yeah, well, just feeling grateful, right? It's that time of year. We're right between Thanksgiving and the Christmas and New Year's holiday season. So it's a great time here in East Tennessee. We're in Knoxville. The air is getting crisp. Obviously, the leaves have changed and are falling. And we're kind of taking stock, right? So we're hustling like all the other sales teams and salespeople around the world to close out the calendar year as strong as possible. But it's also a time for reflection and looking forward to 2018 and trying to put in place all the things that we think we can and need to do to make next year successful. So I think in that sense, we're kind of all in the same boat. We're on the one hand super focused on trying to get stuff done really over the next 2 weeks. Because then things, at least in our experience, tend to kind of grind up right toward the end of the year when you hit the holidays, but also trying to lay the groundwork for next year.
And do you guys have a full 12-month comp plan for your team, or do you break it up, or how do you work that?
Yeah, we do. It's a full 12 months. So, certainly everybody on the sales team, as well as the customer success team, which does a lot of the upselling and add-ons that we do with our existing customer base, are all on a commission plan that's monthly. And so, certainly finishing out the year strong is very important to them, as it is for the rest of the team.
And what's the distribution of like the people over quota, at quota, missing quota? Do you have like a superstar, somebody who's at like 200 or anything like that?
Yeah, we have. And typically in those months, it's attributable to one or sometimes two or three significant enterprise deals, right? And that's when you really get, the 2X and the 3X or beyond of quota, which are special months for those salespeople and great months for the company as a whole. In general, though, and we have a very long tail customer base, so while we do have some mega enterprise customers, the vast majority of our customers fit into the SMB mid-market space. And so for those, to have a very strong month, to hit quota, to exceed quota, you're really wanting to string together a series of those deals that are closing throughout the month. For us, and this may be true for many others in our industry, we're software as a service, but it may be true across lots of industries, we certainly tend to close more deals at the end of the month than early in the month. And that's, I think, in a lot of ways why December is a special month, because you go, well, we tend to close more deals at the end of the month, but right at the end of the month, the 25th and beyond is when people start to check out and they're just not available. They're not in the office. The signer is not present. They're up in the air or they're out in the woods on vacation. You just can't reach them. It gets pushed into the new year, which isn't a terrible thing. We love having a great January in the past couple of years. January has been one of our best months of the year. But we also want December to be strong. So we are trying to focus our efforts here now and for the next week and a half to try to get paper signed before people leave for the holiday.
And what's a lot of listeners are really getting into is trying to understand the difference between those A players, the ones that are, well over quota, psyched, focused, and the B players, the ones that are kind of struggling just to get to that 100%. Well, what's your experience been?
Yeah, it's interesting, and some from things that I've heard, great sales managers and great trainers say in their workshops and events and webinars. Certainly there's just the numbers, but the numbers are easy to see. So what are the leading indicators? What are the other things that surround the numbers that help to identify the A players? I think one of the things that somebody said is, when someone's an A player when you see on caller ID that they're calling you, and you're very excited to take that call because 99% of the time it's good news. It's, hey, I wanted to get you involved in this because we're trying to close this deal. Hey, I need to get your signature today. Hey, can we put this special package together for a customer? Meanwhile, the calls that come through from a non-A player, when you see the caller ID, you're just less excited. And those calls are going to tend to fall into a bucket of, hey, I've got an objection here. The deal's stuck. That one that I said was going to come through, I'm just not sure if it's going to come through this time. It's very frustrating. I wish I had more leads. Or I've got a lot of leads, but it turns out none of them are really that great. And so when you see that caller ID, you're a little less again. I thought, what a great model for thinking about, how do you know when you've got an A player, aside from just the end of the month number, the above and below quota numbers, but what are other things that you just kind of feel emotionally when you know someone's out there really doing work versus the opposite? And that was one. And the second one that I clearly remember, and it may have been the same speaker that said it, was that that companies really rent A players. And what the speaker meant by that is that the A player is not going to stay around forever because they're an A player and they can go anywhere they want and do anything they want. And so the job for those A players from an employer standpoint is to set the table for them, right? Make sure they've got all the tools they need, make sure it remains exciting, make sure the comp plan is structured so that they're A, motivated and incentivized, but also richly rewarded. Because they could be lured away at any time, or they could decide to go start their own company, do their own thing, because they're that good. And so finding an A player is a special event, and then retaining them for as long as possible, right? So whereas you might otherwise have kept the A player for a year, if you can keep them for 2 years, 3 years, that's fantastic for the company, and you're making it great for them too.
Now, let me tackle the first one that you said, looking for, when you get their call, is, I've managed people and I've had that feeling. And when you get that call from a rep and they're asking for your help or they're complaining, how do you get them focused on being more independent and fixing the problem themselves and having them own it?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. And I think, for me, and I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but being a parent is very instructive, right? Because you learn how to break down these big insurmountable problems, right? How do you read this word, or how do you structure this math problem? Yeah. How do you break it down into blocks? And so I think it's the same for all of us, for ourselves and for the people that we work with, is try to take these seemingly insurmountable problems, just like, man, I just got hit with this big objection. I don't know if we can overcome it, right? I mean, we may be stuck. They may walk. We might not be able to get this deal that I thought was very promising, and kind of break it down, break the problem itself down into problems, but provide just a series of building blocks where it could even be tangential to the core problem. So, I think one good example that I've used and that I also remember hearing was, okay, so we've got this objection, or I just can't reach the decision maker anymore. Man, we had this nice cadence of communication, and now they're just up and gone. I can't find them. And it's like, okay, well, now what do you do? And I think one of the best things that I found for myself and for the team is, hey, can you go get their cell phone number? That's your task now. That's your goal in life. Forget about the big deal. Forget about overcoming the objection or the perceived objection that this person had disappeared. Just find a way to get their cell phone number. And that's the job. And that's it. And now go do that, whether it's sourcing it from, third-party systems, whether it's calling into the company main line and, hey, I really need to reach this person. Can I get their cell phone number? I got an important message I need to share and I can't reach them otherwise. Is it calling their assistant? Is it emailing and calling them and just saying, hey, can I just get your cell phone number so I can reach you? And that's it. There's no other ask. That I think has been very useful. And for me, this past year, that was an important step because we had lost touch with the decision maker. We just, we sent all our reply. We did all our follow-ups. We were doing the right things. Couldn't reach them. And so, but I had done the work and gotten the cell phone number. And so I sent a text message and said, look, this, we're not trying to hassle you, but this is what I wanted to put in front of you and get your reaction to it. And then they just said, oh yeah, I've been out for 2 weeks of vacation. Then my boss was out, so I really couldn't provide an answer to you. And so I just hadn't replied. But here's the path forward. We had sent that email follow-up probably 10 times, no reply. Yeah. But it was the text message that broke through. So, that's not the answer to every objection or every problem, but hopefully a useful example of something you can do, something small and finite and identifiable that you can do that may help to advance the deal.
Well, I think it's also a great, if you had the cell phone number already in the contact and make that part of, the discovery demo, working together process, that when you have it, it becomes another communication channel to prevent the radio silence on the email channel.
Absolutely. And it's a good early question to ask, to your point, right? Can you make that part of your normal discovery and engagement process of just, hey, so I've got your email, I got your main line here, line to your assistant. Can I get your cell phone number? Just so we make sure we keep in touch because we're a very, hands-on company. We're at your beck and call. Here's my cell phone number. Yeah. Make it reciprocal. Can I get yours so I know it's you when you're calling, and I'm going to make sure to pick up. Yeah. But then once you have theirs, hopefully that becomes reciprocal. So it's a good way to to borrow from the dating world to define the relationship, right? If they say no, why don't you call my assistant if you need to reach me? Then maybe you're not as close to getting that deal as you would like. Yeah. But hopefully over the next week or two, and they warm up, and then it's actually, yeah, I do want to be in close touch with your team. Your solution is really important to our future. And so I want to be able to reach you, and you need to be able to reach me. Here's my cell phone number, and it helps you to know that you've got good traction.
Now, the other part you brought up was kind of deflecting responsibility and pointing blame away from the individual rep, either blaming the quality of the leads or something that they don't have control over. How do you get them focused on what they do have control over?
Yeah, and I think that is it's a framing thing that all of us have to do, because for those of us that are in sales or in management, I think it's not always the case, but we're probably imbued with above average controlling personalities. And so we don't like when things look like they're out of control. We don't like where it's hey, I had these leads coming in and now, that marketing channel isn't working anymore. I don't like that. I had control over my leads before and now I don't. And so it is a refocusing. It's not a great opportunity to throw a big, tantrum about it. That doesn't advance the deal. It doesn't help us get anything done. But it's okay, for the leads that we have, are we working the sales process, or have we gotten ourselves so distracted on the fact that we didn't, we have half as many leads this week as last week that we just stop pursuing them altogether? Do we just give up entirely on that month? Or do we make sure that we work the steps in the process for the leads we have, and then do simple things to say, okay, if I've got half as much time available, so I've got half as many leads, what can I do to get more leads? What do my leads look like this month? Can I do some simple things on LinkedIn or look through the past contacts that I've had with prospects and find some lookalikes? So I can say, hey, we just got a new trial start from XYZ, and dear ABC, you're really similar to they are. And I prepared this stuff for them, and I'm going to send the same stuff to you. And hopefully you guys can both benefit from our application. And you can do that by identifying them, or do it, anonymize it. Say, we're working with a company really similar to you, and I prepared this, and I thought to send it to you. I hope it's useful. No expectations. I know you're not even necessarily in our pipeline right now, but maybe you would like to be after you see the great stuff I've prepared. So it's coming up with ways to fill the time proactively and productively versus burning that quote unquote extra time by being frustrated about something that we can't control. And that's something I could probably talk a long time for, because I do think I fit in that category of like, I want to have control over each piece and I don't like it when I don't. And so I try to use some of those strategies for myself of like, okay, let's pause and think about, 1, 2, 3, 5 things that I can do this week, this month, just to get work done. And because I can control my own productivity, but I can't control the entire sales process at the company.
Now, let's move on to the next part that I found very intriguing, hearing it from an owner and a manager, that the compensation for these A players, because I'm sure the CFO looks at their W-2 and goes, Brandon, what are you doing? You've got to take this guy or girl and cut their territory in thirds, and we've got to get this in line. Have you had that discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the top performers across companies, and we're likely no different, you're going to find that the top salesperson or several salespeople are your highest earners, full stop, across the entire company. And that, I think, can cause some people to balk and be like, whoa, what about our top engineers, our top marketers, our top support people, et cetera? And yes, they should also be richly compensated. But because, salespeople are heavily on commission, typically, so if you're a company that's heavily on commission and you've got an A player that's out there doing it, then they've lifted up the entire company. And I think it's fair to say that they've earned that high level of compensation. So I think it was early on in the company, I read something by a founder who basically said, I want to see my top salespeople drive into the parking lot, in M5s. That's what I want to see every morning, because when they are, I know that they're winning. I don't even have to check the numbers because I know the company's winning. And that, I think, was a kind of a heartening idea of like, yeah, we don't, you don't want to look at the M5 driving in the parking lot and think, why are they making so much? It's why? It's because they've helped the company to win. And so I think sometimes it may be true that, okay, look, you run roughshod over that territory and you're killing it, but there may be more there even to do. So maybe it should be split. But I don't think the reason it should be split should be that someone's doing really well in it. I think the reason should be because there's so much hunting, one person can't possibly do it themselves. And so it's fair for the company to say, there's more here to exploit. Let's bring in reinforcements and split the territory a little bit. But if the territory is fine the way it is, I certainly wouldn't take it away from the A player. And I would make sure that if you are going to split it, that you can identify why. So then it's well communicated, because it would backfire if you did, split it in thirds or something, and the A player said, I could go somewhere else where I can own my full territory again. And you'd find yourself trying to unwind that decision pretty fast.
And that's it, because I've been on that end of it where, you're in 3x multiples in December, and then you go back to the first multiple January 1st, and all of a sudden your manager, either, because there's a lot of ways to play with the comp plan. The territory's one, the quota's another, the accelerators are a third. Is there any part of the comp plan that you feel really you guys are doing super good at?
Yeah, I think for us, it's been interesting because we have made some changes over time. We've been in the market 6 years to how we've structured the comp plan, but for the last several years, it's stayed relatively uniform in terms of structure. And then it just, the numbers can fluctuate as we grow. But what was interesting is, and I recommend it to everybody, David Skock publishes and has published for the last several years a big benchmarking study for B2B SaaS companies. I think over 400 companies participated in it. And you can download it, and it's free. It's a big PDF, and it shows you benchmarking across lots of different stats, everything from top line revenue to EBITDA to churn to money fundraised, et cetera. And one of the areas they dive into is compensation and structure of compensation plans for B2B SaaS companies. And for that, you can see the ranges of, here's what the percentage is for a rep below quota. Here's what the percentage gets to when they're at quota. Here are the kickers for above quota by 50%, 75%, double quota, et cetera. And they provide basically median values. And so what was interesting for us is to look at it, because we really invented our comp plan kind of out of the air ourselves 5-6 years ago. And then to look at it and basically be like, oh yeah, among our peer group, we're right there. We're essentially right at the median of how people tend to structure their comp plans, which I think is interesting. So to the extent that folks listening are in B2B SaaS companies, that I think is one of the reports to look at every year, just to get a sense of how is your business and your sales team outperforming? How is it possibly underperforming? And where do you fit along that median line compared to other similarly sized, similarly situated companies? But we find for ourselves, yeah, we're right there in that cohort. And that gives us, I think some level of comfort. You want to go outside of the crowd if you feel like you can do it a lot better by being different. But I think for us, it was good news to say, okay, good. We look similar to other companies that look similar to us.
And the other hot topic with the quotas and comp plans is kind of the research results that only 53% are making quota. Now, is that consistent with your experience? What's your reaction to that number?
I think it's interesting. I mean, immediately a bunch of questions come to mind as far as like, well, is everyone just mis-setting the quota?
Yeah.
Semicolon, is that healthy to have a generally 50-50 split? Is that demotivating essentially half of the salespeople because they just aren't making quota all the time? Is it important to move the quota down? And would people, once they get it, want to keep getting it? And then you can ratchet it up, sort of like splitting stock, where it tends to rise back to the level it was before. Or is this symptomatic of there's lots more salespeople perhaps coming into the market, and so there's going to be a whittling out of folks that really like it and want to do it, and other folks that are less well positioned to do sales as a profession? I don't know, but I think, I would suspect that there's people that are looking at it from a more academic perspective that are studying kind of those angles of questions. But it is interesting to think, are we as managers setting targets too high? Are people just not reaching the reasonable targets that we've set out for them? And if so, why? Is it for lack of training? Are we not doing a good enough job doing sales training across all of the industries? Is it because for lack of tools? Like, people are well trained, but they just don't have the equipment that they need to go out and do sales right? Or is it a combination of all of the above? I suspect that there's a little bit of each variable at play when you get into a 50-50 split. I suspect that we can't solve it just with training or just with tools or just by moving the quota around. And I think it would be kind of weird to say, hey, nationwide or worldwide, let's just reduce we're just going to reduce all the quotas, and next year we can say 75% of people hit them. Because then you go, well, what did we win? We have maybe the same revenue or less revenue than we wanted to in the first place. So that's not necessarily great for business.
Well, anybody who's been in sales would answer, when I'm over quota, I'm working harder, I'm more excited, I'm more focused if you're money motivated. And I know if I don't make quota, certainly my marketability goes down dramatically, even though on LinkedIn, I think only 1% didn't make their quota last year.
That's right. Yeah. No, you're never going to publicly say, like, hey,
I didn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't work out too well last year, but I'm looking forward to the next opportunity.
I'm looking for an easier sales job. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking for a job that's easier, that has a lower quota.
It's not a winning strategy. No. Hey, so we had some pretty good quota talk, and really the differentiators between the B and the A players. I really like that idea of getting on the cell phone number. That has worked so well for me, because then you can text. And once you can text, you're really inside their tribe. Hey, I also want to give you an update on Pipedrive. They added this thing called Smart Contacts. So you just have to go, you can either Google Pipedrive Smart Contacts, and there's a blog post on it, and it'll show you how to do it. You just have to go into settings and turn Smart Contacts on. And then when you go to either a company, you'll see Smart Contacts, just a little tab. right underneath the company. You hit it, and it'll come up with all this great information off the internet: address, main phone number, website, all these statistics on the company. So right before you call in there, even if you're looking for the phone number, it gets it for you. Same with the contact itself. As long as you have their email address, and there's plenty of ways of finding that as well. In the show notes, I have findthatlead.com. They have a bunch of them for free, and you can sign up. Hey, I'm still dying of this cough. And you just hit smart contact on that contact. It'll populate the record for you. This is beauty, pipedrive.com. Make sure you're checking that out. It comes with the premium package, which you need anyway, because you want your email and your CRM all together. So you no longer need your inbox. It's all there for you. And it works on your smartphone as well. Crazy good. Also, I want to give you an update on the course. I closed the beta on Friday, the 12th. But the good news is I'm keeping the class open. The difference is the price is staying the same. So the price isn't going up. The only difference is instead of giving you 2 30-minute sessions, what I'm going to do is have office hours every other Friday. So probably the first Friday and the third Friday of every month for half hour to an hour. So anyone who submit questions before. So it's office hours, not a webinar, meaning I'm not there to entertain, I'm there to answer questions. So it'll be completely user driven as opposed to me teaching. That's what the videos are for. You don't need set aside time on a Friday to watch me give the video that I've already given you in the course. But the point of the office hours is to really answer your questions, answer your specific instance of it, give you feedback, and I want you tell me what you want added to the course, because the course is going to be living. And anybody who's already bought the course still gets the 2 30-minute sessions and office hours. So there's no downside for you. I really appreciate the early adopters. The feedback has been unbelievable. I've had a bunch of meetings already, and the need for the course is that you need to go through this process of building your own process and understanding why what you're doing today is less effective. And people are getting enormous results. And let's face it, you get one meeting this year and you close one deal, it'll pay for the course in no time. Literally, my point is the course will be paid for by the time you get the credit card bill, meaning you'll get another commission check will come in that month that you wouldn't have normally got. I'm telling you, it's just going to blow your mind. So stay in touch with the podcast. Make sure you're telling a friend about it. It blew up in 2017. This year, unbelievable. I hired a couple of people already to help me with more training classes, and join #SalesClub on LinkedIn. You get the free ebook, Unlimited Leads, when you join that group, okay? And also, if you post a review on iTunes or whatever podcast player, take a screenshot of it, email it to briangburns@me.com, and I will reply with the full Maverick Selling Method book in PDF. No skimping, every single word. If you want it on Audible, just check the show notes out, and you can just click on that, and you get the free month of Audible. Hey, if you're already an Audible member, it's $3.50. Tell a friend about the brutal truth. We'll see you next time.
I want to know the truth. Because deep down in places that you don't talk about are team and management meetings. You want me on that call. You need me on that call. We use words like fleet view, volume control, total cost of ownership. We use these words as a backbone of a life spent negotiating something. You use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor inclination to explain myself to people who rise and sleep under the very blanket of revenue that I provide and then question the manner in which I provide it. I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, may I suggest you pick up a phone and make some sales calls. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you're entitled to.
Did you expense the lap dances?
I did the job I was hired.
Did you expense the lap dances?
You're goddamn right I did!